Hi, and welcome to Hale Off the Trail, a podcast for the everyday outdoor enthusiast. We're Olivia and Colton Hale, a married couple from Ohio turned full-time RVers in 2020. Over the last few years, we've been on some crazy adventures. Sit back and relax with us as we take a break from hiking and share how we manage this unpredictable lifestyle together. We'll talk how-tos, how not to do's, national parks, favorite adventure memories, and so much more. This one is going to be talking about the second half of the Alcan, and if you don't know what the Alcan is, that's a rural old highway that goes from Canada to Alaska.
Yeah.
That's what we're talking about right now, is the second half of RVing to Alaska. So first, let's pop a brewski.
What do we got here?
So we got some Alaskan brews.
Yeah. From Wasilla, Alaska. Bear Paw River Brewing Company is what mine is.
Okay.
What's yours?
Mine is Kenai River Brewing Company.
Okay.
I don't even like beer. This is from Soldotna. And it says it's, what is this, brewed with gummy bears?
How many gummy bears? Doesn't it say?
Oh, shoot. It said on here when we got it. 7,200.
Jeez. Mine's a Railroad Golden Ale. So we thought it looked kind of cool. So
cheers, man.
Cheers. Let's try it.
Let's crack her open. Oh.
Give her a pour.
Isn't there a specific way to do this? I really don't ever drink beer.
Yeah, well, if you do it wrong, you get
I'm scared.
like me.
I'm scared. Okay. I'm going to let that simmer for a minute. So our last episode, we stopped talking right when we got to Muncho Lake. So that's a lake off the side of the Alcan or the Alaskan Highway in British Columbia. So the next stop...
Which was kind of an unplanned stop, but we wanted to see that area. Beautiful lake.
Yeah, but we talked all about it in the last episode, so we're going to start with the next stop that we did along the journey, which was Liard Hot Springs. So
that was like an hour drive, right? Hour and a half?
And if I'm referencing my computer because I made like a little outline of what we wanted to talk about. So if I'm looking this way, that's what we're doing. But yeah, so that was about a 42-minute drive. And there's an area there that there's a campground. It's provincial. So when we say that, that means that there's like no hookups. So no sewer, no
dry camping.
Electric. You would have to rely on your rig's generator. It's dry camping. So there's tent sites, there's RV sites. You can have reservations for that.
Did you try your beer already?
Oh yeah, I kind of forgot. I just tried the bubbles.
Oh, that's fantastic.
I just don't like beer. I'll try my best to get it down though.
The gummy bear one's not it. That one's pretty good.
It's better than mine. I'll try and get it down. We'll see what happens. If I make faces, that's why. I really don't. I don't love beer, but I'm trying.
Yeah, I appreciate it.
Okay, so let's go back to it. The campground itself probably had, what would you say, 40 some sites?
The Liard?
Yeah.
I think it had 60, but it was... Remember, there was some that they could reserve online, and there's some that you can just walk up and get. And the ones that they could reserve online were all booked when we got there.
Yeah, so we pulled in probably at 12:30, I think, and by 2, we'd walk through again, and there was a sign out that said campground completely full. So out of all the places we stopped along this rural highway, that would probably be the one spot where I would be like, hey, if you want to get a reservation or if you think you're going to get there late, I would want a reservation.
Yeah, if you want to go to the campground, but there is free parking across from it. And so that's for, if you're just paying the $5 for the day.
I think it might have been $8.
Was it $8? Okay.
I don't know. We paid $20. It's $20 to get a campsite for the night. $20 a night. But there is a fee if you're just going there for day use. The parking lot is big enough that there's a lot of RVs that were there. But
yeah, there was a lot of RVs, but we still had enough room that we could have turned around and left.
Oh yeah,
unhooking.
It was a big space. It's funny because the campground itself has an electric fence around it to prevent bears from coming in. So you're in bear country, and
it was like Jurassic Park. Almost.
I was like, whoa.
Yeah.
But it's a 10-minute walk from the campground to the Liard Hot Springs themselves. It's a boardwalk because it's really wet, marshy lands, and there's known to be moose there in the morning and in the evening and stuff, but we didn't see any.
Why don't you take us through your first experience in hot springs? We unhooked, got in, we found a spot pretty easily. There was a few available, but we tried to find a flat one, and then I had to go back and pay. And did I work that day, or we just hung out? We just I think we're tired, hung out for a little bit, ate lunch, and then we headed down to the hot springs because it was pretty hot too. It was 70s and sunny.
Yeah, we wanted to wait until more of the evening so that the day use crowd would be gone. And
yeah.
It was fine. I don't know what exactly I expected. We've been to Hot Springs National Park, and then just regular outdoor hot springs in the woods before, but I don't know what I expected.
Yeah.
It was nicer than I thought. So you walk in and there's changing rooms and public restrooms and stuff, and then there's stairs. So I was like, whoa, this is more built up than I thought. I'd assume that there would be a bottom to it.
Okay, yeah.
And it wasn't. It was very much dirt. Natural, like you're in a pond or something, but it was warm.
Yeah, it was like somebody dammed... It was a big marsh that we walked through in the boardwalk, Yellowstone-ish almost, sulfur and stuff. And then it just opened up. There was a bunch of trees and a big area of it, and that they just built a boardwalk to the side of it.
Yeah, and it was pretty big enough that the group that was there, I didn't feel cramped. I never felt weirdly close to people. You could definitely tell where the more comfortable temperatures were for people, but I don't think we put that together when we first got there, so we went straight to the right.
Because there was nobody there.
Yeah, and the right side is definitely the hottest temperature, and we'll get to that. I got in first right away because I take blazing hot showers. I was not afraid of anything.
I was terrified.
And walking through, it's probably hip level, I'd say throughout the majority of the whole area. And I'm fine. I'm like, oh, it's hot, but it feels like a hot tub. And then it was I feel like there are parts of me that are burning.
I believe you said cooking.
Crisping up. Not pleasant. So it was hard to predict because it happened at one point. So I was like, oh, past this line, the temperature is unbearable. I can't go past it. But then I saw some other guy that just blew past it. And I was like, what? I started talking to him and he's like, no, it just comes in waves. So you got in and we tried again. And I
waited a while. I put my feet in and while you dabbled in the very hot area. Remember?
Yeah, I kept trying again. I don't know why I was backing into it. My butt was the one thing that I could tolerate being cooked.
I get that. I would have probably gone, yeah.
I was fully anticipating some kind of big to-do on your end when you came in because you take such cold showers. Not even lukewarm cold.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I was prepared. I was like, oh, my shoulders are getting kind of tight. We've been boondocking for a few days.
Driving the RV, white-knuckled a little bit,
Yeah, I was ready for a relaxing time in the hot springs.
Yeah, so across the end of the hottest one is a pile of rocks, kind of like a cairn if you're a hiker. And we were like, what's this about? And then we had heard from some of the other people already there for a while, and they said, oh, it's known for being good luck if you're able to get across the whole hot area and place your rock at the end. So immediately, yes, I want to do that.
Well, that guy that you had went in first with was making his way there, but making a fit, wasn't he?
Yeah.
Acting like it was so hot he couldn't stand it and he couldn't go under to get another rock.
Yeah, and it was funny too because there was a lot of elderly people. That seems to be the age of a lot of the other people RVing to Alaska.
Oh yeah.
And when I was like, did you do it? Or somebody was kind of working their way there. I was like, are you gonna do it? And they were all like, no, I don't need luck. I've lived a long life. It's just so matter of fact about it. But I was like, I'm gonna do it. Yeah. So we ended up doing it together. And
well, you went first, and you were struggling.
Well, there's areas, I think we thought it was boiling right at where the tower is, but I think it's just the hot air or water coming up from the bottom.
Sulfur gas.
And it does stink a little bit, that eggy smell.
Mm-hmm.
So
I smelled like it for a few days after.
Yeah.
Pretty gross.
So we did it, whatever. We went back the next day, and we took a thermometer with us, and we took videos of all this. It's so funny.
Yeah, we'll include them in the YouTube video.
Definitely. And we were like putting it in the water when a heat wave would hit us. I kid you not, 123.6 degrees Fahrenheit.
Is what it got to.
That's what it was, the hottest I think that we saw.
And honestly, it felt hotter. It felt like we were boiling. Because when the big waves hit you, it was like, you have to move.
Yeah.
So hot. But yeah, it's only 123.6.
That is an insane
in my mind,
number
it should have been
to
higher.
me. Oh my gosh, no. So anyway, if you go further down to the left, it gets a lot cooler, and it kind of like narrows to the end. And
really
there's
cool.
like fish, like little teeny tiny fish, just kind of like circling, because I think that's the only temperature that they can
they like get stuck in there.
Survive at. So,
which you didn't like that, but the way back there was really cool, and it was like ferns everywhere, and there was a log down, and like nobody else was going back there because they were like, it's creepy, but it was just cool. It was nature.
Yeah, so we definitely hung out there for a while in the more tolerable temperature area, and it was funny because we were hanging out by ourselves, and we're not big like extroverts, so we won't go out of our way to start conversation with people, but there were a lot of older people talking, so I eavesdrop pretty frequently. Like,
yeah, you were just straight up staring at
I was staring at this guy, listening to him talk. He was so like vivacious and excited about the journey. He lives in an RV too, so this older guy that he was talking to like broke away from him, and I was like, oh, they're done having a conversation, that's great. And the guy caught eyes with me, and then like I should have known.
I knew instantly when the guy was leaving, because he had just started talking to the other guy, and then he was like inching away, and he's like, okay, thank you. He said it like 3 times and then bolted. Long story short, we got trapped talking to this man for at least an hour. At least. I wouldn't say trapped because he was pleasant, but it was kind of... We were fine with it. We were just relaxing.
One of those people where like you don't have to interject at all for the conversation to continue. Like, that meme or sound or something where it's like, I caught myself, I can't think of what it's called, where it's like, awesome, that's awesome, that's awesome, where like that's all you're contributing to the conversation. 100% what was going on. He was telling us about his story where like he had lived the past, was it years or months? In the bush. So it's like he emerged and just wanted to tell everybody his story of where he's been and how he did it. But it was funny. We were fine. We talked to him for a while and then tried to get away. We did meet up with him going to the springs when we were coming back in the morning, and we were trying to leave because we were cutting it close to checkout time, and I straight up was like, Colton, run. But anyway, that's a really, really cool spot to check out. Super relaxing if you don't, burn yourself in the process. Which we didn't. We felt like we were, but it was fine. Yeah. Definitely something to do to push yourself and go over there, because would you have done that without some encouragement? No, it hurt so bad the first time. It was so unexpected how insanely painful it was. But yeah, I mean, it's cool that we did it. Even like little things that we do to push ourselves like that is like a fun memory, Yeah. And I had to work the next day, and so I worked in the morning. Starlink was working amazing there too, which is thankful. I'm thankful for that. And then checkout was at what, like 11? I got done working at 10, and we booked it down there at like 10:20 to check the temperature. Because we didn't bring the thermometer the first time, so we were bringing the thermometer then, and I was like, I need to know what this temperature is. Because it was in Celsius on the signs, but I'm a nurse, so like some of the charting systems I've used have used Celsius, and I was like, that's not that high. Like, that's a low-grade fever. There's no way. Because I like hot water. There's no way that's as high as it goes. And I was very correct. So, yeah. All right. It was fun. We made it out of there in no time, and it was really great. Not a lot of services there. There's just like a little lodge across the street that you can get gas and some food at, but that's pretty much it. Yeah, we heard the burgers there were good, but we didn't We're trying to save money, so. Next stop was Watson Lake Sign Forest. This was if I can interject, this
was it today? Or no, it was the day before we started driving, and we heard this like, tsk, 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 like really loud, like, I thought a bird flew in the fan in the engine. Like, that's just what my mind went to.
I don't know what I thought, because I don't know cars or engines or anything.
We heard it really loud for a while, and then it stopped. And so that was, like, on my mind for a while. And so this morning I woke up, and before we left, I checked the oil, I checked the coolant, and then I looked at the serpentine belt. Just to, like, I knew it was probably going to be that, but I didn't want it to be. And, yeah, saw that our serpentine belt was, like, shredded off. Like, a third of it was gone. And it was split in half. And so, yeah, that's how I woke up today.
Yeah, so we were a little concerned about that because we're in the middle of nowhere. There's not, like, a Napa Auto Parts down the road at all.
No chance.
So we called Watson Lake, the next, like, town, which was still 2.5 hours away, just into the Yukon territory. And the shop there that was the only shop in that town that had, like, car replacement stuff was like, oh yeah, we can order that in for you, but it's going to take 6 weeks.
Yeah, they did not have anything.
Yeah, so then we were like, because we kind of expected this is one of the spots along the route that I'm most excited for, and we'll get into that. We ended up pushing through then to try and get to, right? Or maybe not.
We stayed in Watson Lake.
Oh, yeah. out of town though.
Yeah, so right. We could talk about that. We got there, and as soon as we got there, I called the mechanic. And when he told me that, I was like, well, this sucks, but what can we do? So then we kind of were like, okay, we're going to shelf it and move on. Okay. And spent some time there.
So anyway, Watson Lake Pine Forest is a place that...
So cool.
Is super cool. It has been going on since 1942, where people commemorate their journey to or from Alaska, and they will leave like mementos on posts, so it looks like a sign forest.
Yeah.
And I had heard about that in the research of our trip, and I was like, I want to make a sign. He had found an old license plate that we had from one of our vehicles, so we were like, we're gonna leave this. I'm just all about like learning, like, I don't know, what do I want to say?
Creating?
No, it's like expression. The shared excitement with strangers, even at like trailheads and stuff, when people are all excited to do a hike, or when they've gotten to the spot that you do the hike for. That like shared enthusiasm is really exciting, and the fact that these are like signs that people have put up from years ago, or from places really cool. I've never been. Like we saw signs from Switzerland, Brazil. Like there were signs in Chinese, like
there were like shoes. There was a toilet seat that we saw on the way out.
Yeah, people got really creative. Yeah. They had like taken antler sheds and like wrote on that and said like such and such year, put their name, like coming.
There were a
from.
bunch of like manufactured signs, like that they had gotten well ahead of time.
Yeah, it's a thing. So if you ever plan on doing this trip, definitely make a sign of some sort. I know there is some like little shed there that I think you can make your own, but we didn't. Yeah, we didn't even look into that because we already had ours planned, and we brought a step ladder and
should have brought a bigger ladder. We had a 3-foot step ladder, but we should have brought a 6-foot because it was.
I did not anticipate
all full.
There not being a lot of spots. Like I figured, they put up new posts every year. We'll get a sign, no problem. And we were like, he's 6'4".
On top of the ladder.
Could barely reach where we ended up nailing it in. So I even saw a sign from this town that's like 20 minutes from where I grew up in Nowhere, Ohio. So it was so cool. You could get lost in there roaming around and looking at all the different signs because they're all so creative and so, just fun to read. There was like a couple in memory of like somebody's taken a journey to commemorate their grandpa or something, and I was like, I'm literally gonna lose.
And the hiking shoes kept getting you every time.
Oh my gosh, people that like nail or screw their hiking shoes into the posts, I'm like, I gotta walk away. Yeah. I'm gonna cry.
We stayed for a while, walked around, and then there's some sketchy dudes that were trying to talk to us. Like,
yeah, that town itself threw me off a little bit.
Yeah, don't expect much from the town. Maybe there were some nice parts, but from where we were at, it was just a lot of people on the streets, like, trying to talk, like, mess with locals, it seemed like. Or locals trying to mess with people passing through.
we were also really concerned about the engine situation, so we didn't stay long for that reason as well.
We got groceries at that grocery store. What was it? Something A?
I don't remember.
Yeah. And then we headed out.
And we did put our exact coordinates to the sign that we put up on our phones. We dropped like a little pin so that we would always know where it is, because you can get lost in there. I looked it up.
Signs.
It's grown to now be over 80,000 signs.
Yeah, you could walk there for a while.
Oh, yeah.
What percentage do you think that we saw of the signs that were there?
60 maybe?
Yeah, we were there for a while.
Yeah.
We circled a couple times just to find a spot.
I was starting to get a little concerned.
Yeah.
Okay, so then we moved on. They said it would take 6 weeks, so we went to... Oh, I wrote this wrong. We didn't end up going all the way to Whitehorse. We just stayed outside of town in a mosquito-infested area.
Yeah, because that was such a... Was it a long day? I don't feel like it was.
I think you were stressed about the belt.
Oh, so I worked, and then we went to Watson Lake, and then we spent a lot of time there. We still had a bit of a drive, so we just like crashed somewhere at a pull-off that we saw, which was a nice, really pretty pull-off. You just pulled straight into this lake, private lake, but so many mosquitoes.
Yeah, the mosquitoes were overwhelming. I didn't even go outside because Colton was like, I have spray on and I'm still being like attacked.
I let the dogs out for like, I don't know, 5 minutes, and Bonnie was covered with like...
He said he looked down at her face and it was just
20
like mosquitoes everywhere. Was this also where we didn't tape the thing? And the mosquitoes came in? I don't think we talked about that though.
Maybe.
Okay, so we're just going to share like a little sidebar that's hilarious now that it's past, but like traumatic in the moment.
Oh my gosh.
We have a Starlink satellite internet because Colton still works while we're traveling, and you have to feed the wire through like one of the windows. And so there's like always a tiny little crack in the window, and we put like tape so it's covered. But there was like, I'm not even kidding, the smallest little hole, and we woke up one morning covered in mosquito bites.
I woke you up because I came in and there were bats on the ceiling. There was like just 10, 15 mosquitoes, all full of blood, all sitting on the ceiling.
Yeah,
after I killed a whole bunch out front.
He had it a lot worse than me because he sleeps with like the covers down.
It was kind of
where
hot.
I'm all the way up on my neck, and you had like 30
all
plus.
over my side. Yeah.
Looked like he had some kind of disease.
We were like, oh boy, what are we getting into? The true Alaskan experience, what I expected with mosquitoes, but since then they haven't been too terrible.
Yeah. So, we went to Whitehorse then was the next big stop. And
yeah, we made it to the pull-off, no problem with the RV situation. I kind of tried to baby it, but...
Yeah, we pulled off in a Walmart, and we had called, and there was a Napa in...
Whitehorse.
Watson Lake is right when you get into the Yukon territory, so we pushed on. It's another 5-hour drive to this town. I'm pretty sure it's Whitehorse.
Yeah.
And that was like the biggest town, even though it's probably still small, that we had been in for weeks at this point. So I was almost like overstimulated.
Oh, and I was too driving the RV because it was like tight roads and so many cars there. Stressful.
Yeah, so we pulled over in a Walmart, and he like took off right away because the whatever shop you called was about to close in like an hour. So he was like, unhook the Jeep really fast. I'll take this belt. I don't even totally know what size is right, because you had called and they were like not able to totally verify it. And I just like prepped dinner and was like, hope for the best. Like, I don't know what I can do here. But he came back with not one, but 2 belts. Do you have anything to add to that experience?
It was very stressful because I worked that morning, and then we kind of farted around for a little bit after, and then I just happened to look at when that Napa closed before I shut the internet off to like pack up, and saw that it closed at 4:30, and it was a 5-hour drive away without any stops, and we were at like a half a tank of gas, and it was like 11 o'clock at that point or something like that.
But we made it, and he came back with 2 belts and was like, not really sure if one of these are going to fit or not. So I'm going to go under the RV for a while. And I was like, not totally sure where we're going to park tonight or if we're going to be in this Walmart or what's happening. So I'm just going to chill. And you put the first one on and it was too big?
Well, I got 2 different sizes because they couldn't match. He couldn't figure out the belt that I needed. And then it was like $425 at that point. And so we just went back and sized up a couple other belts. And I got one that was a little bit too small and one that was a little bit too big. And I tried the one that was too small, didn't quite fit. Put the one that was too big on, and it fit just fine. That was only my second time ever doing that. I've done it once before in a car, but...
And I've never even heard of a serpentine belt. So, like, thank God for Colton, because I would have been, like, stranded. Help.
Good thing we're doing this together.
Yeah. So it worked out, and then we moved on. And then the rest of the Yukon time was basically spent at that one pull-off, which was 2 hours from the border, and we just spent like 4 nights there because it was so ideal. Mm-hmm. So as we've mentioned before, there's a lot of pull-offs along the Alcan itself to spend the night, to rest up, whatever. There's areas where you can dump your trash, and we were looking for places that were a little bit more off of the road, so we do use iOverlander to look up those spots, and you can set filters with that to look up places where you can fill water, and that's in general because it's not on the Alcan. I'm just talking about using that app in other places. So we had found this little like honey hole, as you say, off the road, kind of like behind a tree line next to this river, and there were mountains in the background, and it was so perfect that we stayed there multiple days, just kind of like recouping from the drive, not quite ready to say goodbye to this huge epic road trip that we had just done, because now our destination is Alaska and we're 2 hours from there. So we spent our time there and it was a lot of fun.
Yeah, we did stop one more night before then at a lake on the way there. Remember that?
No.
Yeah, we drove a long day, and then somewhere, I think it was just after Destruction Bay, we stopped and then started that drive because that was a rough drive getting to that pull-off spot 2 hours south of the border.
No memory of that. Yeah. None whatsoever.
Oh, we saw some buffalo. There's a bunch of little babies there. That was so cute getting the pictures of it.
Yeah, the one like mooed, not at us, but just in general, and it had such a deep...
Yeah.
For its size,
yeah.
You know, because they're orange and like teeny tiny.
I was like annoyed at that point because Bonnie just would not stop whining.
Constant.
So loud.
I get it though. She wants to meet them, but yeah, it was slightly annoying. Okay, so the Yukon spot. Do you want to talk about that more? The one I was referring to, boondocking.
It was a vibe. Yeah, it was cool. We went on the roof and we were. Like hanging out, we both journaled together for a while, took a nap. The mosquitoes weren't terrible.
I whittled a spoon. It was so quiet. Nobody else was there. You whittled a spoon. I journaled. I had music playing, mountains in the background. Perfect boondocking spot. And
nobody was really there. A couple of people came and left, but really we were in the best spot, so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I guess before we switch over to the border crossing into Alaska, we can kind of give like a tally of the animals that we saw, how many we saw of each, just in general for the whole Alaskan highway or the Alcan. We saw probably 10 to 12 black bear.
Yeah.
They were always off the side of the road.
When I was like blowing through, I couldn't stop to get a picture or anything.
You saw... a few grizzlies. I saw, I think, 2.
I saw 2.
And then we saw some caribou. That was near Summit Lake. And then what else did we see? Oh,
the buffalo.
Some of the buffalo. Some of those sheep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No eagles though, which was interesting.
Yeah, now that we've gotten into Alaska, we have seen a lot more bald eagles, stuff like that. But we'll get to that in a later podcast. But yeah. So basically now we just have to talk about crossing into Alaska. So going back into the States with an RV, I was still very worked up about that, even though getting into Canada was no big deal. So yeah.
A 2-hour drive. It was kind of a rough drive. There's a lot of frost heaves, a lot of construction. Not really construction active before Maybe there was one
Mostly
or two.
After, I think.
But there were these pilot cars where you'd have to stop and then wait for the pilot car to come, and then the pilot car would take you all the way through.
Yeah, I'd never heard of those before. Pilot cars, it's just like a truck that has a follow me sign on the back of it. And you have to wait at this like makeshift stoplight forever. To the point where I was like, this is fake.
Well, some guys got out and were like throwing the Frisbee around.
I was like, let's just go. This is fake. But it's not. I guess there's like 2 seasons in Alaska. And it's winter and construction season. You know? So, yeah, we got in right before the official border crossing. Is that where that, like, sign is and stuff?
No, it was after.
Okay.
So we pulled up to the border crossing, and there was a good line in front of us. And then I, like, saw that there was a height restriction and looked at it, and it was, like, 13, or what was it, 12'8" or something like that. Mm-hmm. And so I was like, no, I'm not doing that. So I went over to the trucker entrance. And so that was already kind of weird. Nobody came out to, like, greet us.
Nobody came for multiple minutes. So I was like, hello?
Yeah, so I got out. I went in, talked to him. The guy, like, made it seem like I should have just tried it anyway. But I'm like, no, I know what I can fit through. Kind of gave me a hard time for that, whatever. But came out, saw Olivia, gave him the...
No, let's pause here before we go any further. I was instructed to remain in the vehicle, even though you took my passport into this border crossing. Of course that he's going to come out and make sure that I'm a real person and I'm not being, like, trafficked across the country.
I assumed he would come out, but I still figured I should bring those things in just in case he wants them then. But okay.
Whatever. He came out, and I was like, oh, hello, I'm sorry. Like, of course, I'm who I say I am. And it was still pretty chill. He just asked, like, are all the contents in your vehicle or your RV yours? We were like, yeah. And then he wanted the registration for the RV, which I knew the drawer it was in, but I could not find it for the life of me. And then I started panicking, and I was like, if I can't produce it right away, he's going to think that I'm smuggling drugs. Like, so Colton comes over really quick and finds it, gives it to him. He goes back in for a couple minutes and then comes back out with our passports and stuff and was like, welcome to Alaska. So, woo! No big deal with that.
There. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then right after, there's a sign that you can stop at that we stopped and got some pictures. No big issues this time with Olivia, and there were people that jumped in front of us, but at that point we were like, whatever, fine.
Yeah, no, it was nice. There's a sign there that says, like, welcome to Alaska, but then if you, like, turn around, there's a sign for the Yukon, too, so you can kind of, like, kill 2 birds with 1 stone. And then there's, like, a little plaque in the ground, too, that's kind of like the Four Corners area of the U.S. where you can stand. It, like, marks exactly where you are, so you can stand in Canada and the U.S. at one time. Yeah. So we got a picture there. That was really cool. And then that was it. So that's the second half of the Alcan or the Alaskan Highway. If you're ever thinking of RVing there or driving a car even, it is worth it completely. I expected to just want to, like, put my head down and get through it because Alaska was the ultimate goal. So pretty, so worth it. What was your favorite part of it, of that second half? Of the second half, I really liked finding out what the temperature was because usually I'm a dramatic person. You know, some reactions are dramatic. That one was not one of them. Like, I thought I was burning alive in those moments. So to feel validated that's like, I've never experienced a temperature this hot. I knew. Okay. So that was fun. I also really enjoyed putting the sign up at Watson Lake because that felt very like a momentous moment that I had been kind of like imagining since we found out about the place. Yeah. So that was probably my favorite. Yeah. Cool. What were yours? I think the spot that we found just before the border crossing, I thought that was a really cool spot. Oh, yeah. We didn't necessarily expect it to be anything crazy, because I don't know what any of these spots look like, really. Mm. I think some of them have pictures on iOverlander, but not most. And it was kind of sketchy getting in, but I was like, yeah, let's do it. Not bad. And so, yeah, paid off. That was really cool. And the Sign Forest, I think, would be my second one. I didn't like the town, but... No, you did not. The forest itself was really cool, and it's cool to leave something like that with everybody else that left something. Yeah. So, I did want to mention a couple little things before we sign off for this episode. And that is, I made like a little guide on our Instagram. So that's Hail on a Trail with periods in between the words or letters, whatever. For the highlights of the route, in our opinion, things that you should see, things that you should expect, some fun information about the history of the road, all that kind of stuff. So we can put a link to that in the show notes, just if you're curious, if you want to plan for yourself. Also, if you are planning on making the trek specifically in an RV, we found a Facebook group that we can link in the show notes. It's called RVing to Alaska, the original. And that has, I think it's over 5,000 members of people who have done the route or are actively doing the route at the same time. And they'll post pictures of like places to stop, potential spots to stay if you're boondocking.
Yeah, you can ask questions if you're curious about like what to do or if the road's all right.
Road conditions are huge, so that's a really great resource. And then again, we've mentioned in previous episodes to get the milepost that kind of talks about the route itself and the places and services available as you go. Have stuff for extra tires because the route isn't.
Yeah, have an extra serpentine belt if you haven't thought of that, because I would have done that if I would have thought of it, but I didn't.
Yeah. We survived. You can too. It's worth the effort.
Yeah.
So now we're in Alaska, and we will get into kind of what we've done so far. We've been here for, 2 weeks now? So we've done a lot. We've had a lot of cool experiences, but that's the episode for the second half of the Alcan. Do you have anything else to add?
No, I don't think so. It was a great... We definitely didn't expect it to be as eventful as it was, and we had a great time.
Not at all. It's so worth the effort, and like showering with baby wipes instead of like having access to showers. Like there's definitely a lot of RV parks and campgrounds and stuff if you want along the way, but we wanted the full experience where you're kind of like more disconnected from people and stuff. So
yeah,
do it.
Hey everyone, we want to give a big thank you to anyone who's taken the time out of their day to listen to the end. This chapter of our lives has truly been so much fun, and if our talks help encourage you to get out there and chase your own outdoor dreams, it's been more than worth it. Do us a favor, rate, review, and subscribe to the pod, and until next time, happy trails from the Hales!